Dr. Warren. I just got your message, and so right now I am fixing that, and I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and re-record it over the slides and do it that way. It's much easier. So our first slide here, I believe that introductions are a great way to cover the cognitive, the social, and the teaching presence, all three of them, because as a teacher, you're going to do your introduction yourself and set the tone, like to kind of give an example of what you're expecting from your students. So a lot of times, they're going to take their cues from you and kind of mimic the same type of information that you give in your introduction. So it gives everybody the opportunity as a class to get to know each other and learn about each other. And it allows me as an instructor or any instructor to make any adjustments and add some materials that would fit the student's interest. So, and like I said, it sets an example for the students to follow. And in your introductions, let's see, move this over here. So when you're creating an online class lesson, you want to have a topic of discussion and you want it to be exciting and fun. So in my introductions, I'm asking everybody to think about experiences, family stories, and traditions that pertain to the subject of Halloween or the Day of the Dead, if that's something that they take part in or something that they want to learn about. So it triggers events and helps generate ideas. So in a way, by participating in this, you're setting the stage for the students. If it's boring initially, nobody's going to want to stick around. And so you want to also help your students by relating the subject to what their interests are. And anybody who's taken the class are going to have an interest in it because it's I don't know if I would consider it a designer class, maybe, but it's a class that's themed. There we go. So personal stories, as I mentioned, can help generate ideas that they can use in their lessons and in the future lessons. And that's something that I actually got from some of my history and some of my anthropology instructors. They said, hey, I noticed in your introduction you have an interest in opening up an antique shop and 18th century coffee and chocolate emporium. So why don't you use that interest and write about that, as far as like learning the history of, and then flipping it with the anthropology, doing the cultural portion of it, because it was cultural anthropology. So, and as you see here, there's Fat Molly and Lily dressed up as a Hogwarts student, and so personal stories are key, and it gives you, as I mentioned, the social presence, the teaching presence because I'm also partaking in that, and then cognitive because it gets it triggers ideas that can be used in the classroom. So doing the exploration and research, you want to ask open-ended questions, provide topic-related materials, and encourage your students to do the same thing in gathering evidence. And so you want to initially ask them the open-ended questions about the subject to see what they already know about it. So research can be very time-consuming, so I can help save time by having relevant sources that demonstrate what they should look for when researching on their own, maybe for later courses. And that's something that they can take with them after after the course is over. It's something that will definitely stay and teach them what to look for. Like, for example, you don't want to go looking in Time magazine or, Seattle Times. Definitely, these are these are not sources that are really relevant unless it's they're more popular sources. Let's just put it that way, and they're not that reliable because they're based on opinion and less on fact. So this is where a teaching presence comes into play, and being an active part of the class, I feel like I can learn just as much from them, from my students, that they're learning from me. And so again, I feel that kind of hits all the marks on that. So integration, activities and choices, giving them a list of activities to choose from, gives that cognitive mark, that feel. Activities are huge motivators. They're hands-on and they allow the learner to get their hands dirty and provide a list of different activities that will allow the learner to showcase their knowledge. So one of my most impressionable classes was Civilization, where my professor was very candid, and he taught in a way that actually made me consider teaching as an option in the first place. So basically, he is the reason why I'm here. And of course, Lily had definitely uh, made that even more real for me. So I took his example and I created lessons that would place my students in the shoes of those that they are studying. And I think we'd talked before about uh, doing a documentary where they go back in history, pick a time, and a historical character who had impacted Halloween or the Day of the Dead, and kind of took that little walk, kind of did a walkthrough of a video presentation or something like that, something to that effect. So to me, that creates the cognitive portion, and it also, the sharing is creating a uh, I totally forgot what I was going with that. But let's see. Let's look here. That's social presence. There we go. Let's go back here. So creates a social presence because it's going to be discussed. And students are going to say, hey, that I didn't know that before. This is, like what I learned from you, and this is what I can offer to deepen this understanding that I'm now getting. And have you ever thought of this? Or like, hey, did you know about that? I know it's kind of but it's been a long week, so there we go there. So resolution is a social, hits a social presence, because I think I actually got ahead of myself in that last slide there. So sharing your finished assignment, discussing the results, helps deepen your understanding, demonstrates cognitive, and creates a social presence, which is what I just basically said in my last deal. So your peers can offer some insights and perspectives that may not have considered. And one of the examples that I can use here is a past class that I had where I had a request from one of my classmates um, to for me to email her my finished project. And where I was going with this slide here is the ability to share the finished or the final with your classmates. That's one of the things that that was expressed in my previous classes that everybody wished that they would be able to see some of the finished projects that we were creating that were not going to be available for them because it's submitted to Waypoint, but not up for any discussion. And so I thought I'd kind of throw that in there, and that gives it gives, I guess, in a sense, some closure. Some people say, "Oh my God, I love that you're doing your project on that. Man, I really wish I could see the finished work," and that's where that came from. But hopefully, I'm making sense. Um, so. Choosing user-friendly tools. I need to adjust that here. So for this, it's not necessarily a social or maybe it's more of a teaching presence there. So me having or integrating and supplying easy access tools with clear instructions that will reduce confusion and encourage participation. To be honest, in the past, if I have to spend any more than 10 or 15 minutes trying to figure out how to work a tool, I'm just gonna get really frustrated, and it makes me want to quit. Or like I can find something that'll get the same job done with less hassle. So that's huge. I don't know if that kind of I think that falls on teaching presence because it's the teacher that's providing the tools and the ideas that are going to be able to be used in that classroom. So that's my justification there. And so in my own course design, I worked really hard on finding topic related sources with media rich websites and links to museum sites. And these are some of the pictures that I believe that you'd seen. I think that's a different one right there. This is actually a petrified gourd that was used. Looks kind of mummified, kind of creepy, but that's kind of a old artifact. And then you get these really interesting images of the parades, the Day of the Dead parades, and the beginnings of some of the festivities and practices that took place way back when. So now for instructor presence, it is necessary to have easy to understand expectations, clear instructions, simple to set up tools, and links to follow. And right here, I don't know if I can zoom in on that. Not really, that just kind of stretches it. But there is that there, so. And here are my references, and that is the end of this presentation, and hopefully it hits all the marks, and I look forward to where we're going in the next class. Right. Or I guess, yeah, the following classes. So hopefully this is sufficient, and I will see you later.